You're listening to the Business Building Rockstars Show, where your host, Nicole Holland, gets the lowdown from today's most talented, inspiring, and successful entrepreneurs on what it really takes to reach rockstar status.
Hey there, this is Nicole Holland, and you're listening to episode 13 of the Business Building Rockstars Show. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to tell you about a special giveaway that I'm doing right now. Now, if you've listened to any of my episodes already and you've enjoyed them, or if this is your very first time listening, I'm doing a super cool giveaway that everyone who subscribes, rates, and reviews my podcast gets to win at. I'm giving away an entire Get Seen, Get Heard business building bundle that I normally sell for $97, and every single person who participates gets this prize. The bundle includes training on how to get started with podcasting, webinars, how to create videos, how to get yourself on television, and how to get great photos of yourself for a more professional and powerful presence. And all of that can be yours for free if you decide to participate in this giveaway. Complete details can be found at bbrshow.com/launch. But basically, how it works is that if you have not yet rated and reviewed my podcast, all you have to do is subscribe on iTunes, have a listen, let me know what you think by giving my show a star rating plus a written review, and then head on over to bbrshow.com/launch. That's LAUNCH. And you'll fill out a form there with your Apple ID, your email address, and your first name. And then that way I can set you up with the Get Seen, Get Heard business building bundle as my way of thanking you for your support and participation. On today's show, I'm talking with John Lee Dumas about growing up, moving on, and getting better. This was a really fun interview and a little more casual than most, but I think you're going to enjoy this candid conversation with one of the most influential podcasters on the planet. So sit back, relax, and get ready for the show. Hey there, entrepreneur. Welcome to the Business Building Rockstars Show. This is Nicole Holland hanging out with John Lee Dumas. John is the founder and host of EO Fire, an award-winning podcast where he interviews today's most successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. JLD has interviewed over 1,200 entrepreneurs, and EO Fire generates over 1 million monthly listens. John continues to inspire Fire Nation to conquer their fears and take the entrepreneurial leap, and it is my absolute pleasure and honor to have Mr. JLD back hanging out with me for the Business Building Rockstar Show. John, are you ready to rock?
Yes. Let's just say step number one, remember the name of your own show.
Yes. Well, the funny thing is we hung out for the Business Building Rockstar Summit. And of course I have these like super long names that are tongue twisters in itself. So yes,
Only 4 syllables, John Lee Dumas.
Yes. And you shortened up your tongue twister from Entrepreneur on Fire to EO Fire. And as you are, you're somebody I hugely respect. And obviously I decided to choose to follow you in learning about podcasting. I learned from what you taught, and I made sure this was BBR Show. Much easier than Business Building Rockstar Show.
Especially for the listener, right now they're running, they're in the car, they're in a plane. They can remember bbrshow.com. It's there.
It's there. Super, super simple. Sweet. So you've got so much different stuff going on. I didn't talk about in your bio the Freedom Journal, which is a passion project, which not only are you helping entrepreneurs meet their goals, this was a huge thing for you as well. You're helping build schools with this. Do you want to talk about that and also what else you're up to these days?
Yeah, I'd love to. So about a year and 2 months ago, I just had this constant kind of pinging from my listeners, Fire Nation, just saying, John, like we're seeing all of your successful and inspiring entrepreneurs. They're all really accomplishing goals, big goals. They're setting goals, they're accomplishing goals. And if I'm being honest with myself, and this is me speaking for my listeners, they were saying they were struggling with that very same thing. They were struggling setting and accomplishing goals. They didn't really understand the process behind it. So I set out to bridge that gap, Nicole. I set out to create the solution to that problem that I really was hearing from my listeners. Key takeaway here, engage with and listen to your listeners. They will give you the path to your success. And so I realized, hey, why don't I just create something that will guide people in the setting and accomplishing of their number one goal? So number one goal in 100 days, like very specific, very focused, laser beam type. And I decided to create a physical product because anybody can just kind of overnight whip up an app or a PDF or this or that. And I knew that because of the success I've had financially with my business, I had the deep pockets to fund the creation of what turned out to be 20,000 copies of the Freedom Journal. And, I sourced the material. I got the manufacturing plant lined up. I did all the checks over the course of a year so that in January of 2016, up here in LA, we had 20,000 Freedom Journals in the warehouse just ready to go. So then I could turn on my Kickstarter campaign, which we used a 33-day campaign length of. And for 33 days, Nicole, it was all about the Freedom Journal Kickstarter campaign. And I will say it became the 6th most funded publishing campaign of all time. We had over 7,000 backers, over $453,000 in total revenue. And as you alluded to earlier, we partnered with this great community and charity called Pencils of Promise. My buddy Adam Braun launched this a number of years ago, and they build schools in developing countries. And what I love about it is that for $25,000, you can build a soup to nuts school from beginning to end, and it will be there for generations to come. And I just love that mentality. And so through the Kickstarter campaign, we built 3 schools. And, definitely more to come because after the Kickstarter campaign ended, we're continuing to sell the Freedom Journal, which, shockingly, I have right here. You can see the gorgeous leather-bound, gold embossed, gold leaf Freedom Journal itself. We're continuing to sell them on Amazon and at thefreedomjournal.com. It's actually cheaper if you buy it through thefreedomjournal.com, but for some people, shipping really gets in the way, and Amazon might help you there. But it's $35 at thefreedomjournal.com, $45 on Amazon, and we're continuing to donate a portion of every sale to Pencils of Promise, which I'm really inspired by. And how I kind of sum it up, Nicole, is that if you invest in the Freedom Journal, you're giving yourself the gift of accomplishing your number one goal in 100 days. And you deserve that gift, but you're also giving the gift of education to those less fortunate. So it's a really win-win all around. And we've had a blast doing it.
I love win-win all around. And it's even more than that, because as an entrepreneur, the more goals you're reaching, the more lives you're changing within your own world and not just across the pond. So it's awesome. I love what you're doing there.
Are you across?
Pardon?
You're across the pond?
I'm not across the pond. I'm across the country. But when we invest in ourselves by investing in the Freedom Journal, then we're also able to change lives in a developing country.
Yeah. I mean, there's Guatemala, there's Ghana. There's some really great places that they're making this impact, and they've really nailed it and come down. And side note, I'm actually moving to your side of the country May 1st.
No. You're leaving California?
Going to Puerto Rico, full-time, permanent move.
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting. And here on the show, you heard it first. Holy cannoli. That's wild. Okay. Well, and so you're leaving California, going to Puerto Rico. You are not from California, though. You're a small town boy. Maine. So tell me about life as little JLD. What do you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, little JLD grew up in a very sheltered small town, 2,000 people. My high school wasn't too small. It was about 1,000, 1,200 people coming from 6 different towns to make up the high school. And it was just, a really sheltered experience, to be honest. There wasn't much diversity, which is kind of sad. There wasn't much exposure to the difficult things in this world, which can give you a jaded view as a young kid. You kind of think that you're entitled and this is how everybody lives, et cetera. And you realize later that that's not the case. But, I would have definitely said my parents could have done a better job exposing me to those things earlier. I mean, they did a great job in a lot of ways, but, I just lived that life of going to school, and school was easy for me. So I didn't do great, but I didn't try hard, and I got B's and A's. Was an athlete. So I was a three-star varsity athlete. I was actually voted most athletic of my class. So that goes to kind of share with you where my focus was in high school. Then I decided to go to college on an Army ROTC scholarship, and that really shaped the next really 8 years of my life, because I was 4 years as a cadet in college. So there was a big part of me that had to focus on being a cadet. We had to wake up at 5:30 a.m. 3 days a week. And also, as soon as I graduated, I spent the next 4 years as an active duty officer. So it was a pretty big decision for a 17-year-old to make. And knowing what I know now, I probably would not have. But, we just don't know what we're getting ourselves into. We don't really realize what our priorities are until we do them. So that's that.
That's that. And I love that. Even beyond that, and your story is everywhere, and I'm happy for you to share your story here too, but I kind of want to push you a little bit in a different direction. But if anybody wants to find out John's story, like, go to eofire.com or listen to him on any other podcast. And also, you were in the Business Building Rockstar Summit 2015, and we went into your story there about the military and then beyond. I'm curious, though, if we can kind of jump into some stuff that most people don't know. So you lived a sheltered life, and you had this sort of easy path, or this kind of direct path for the most part, until you went, whoa, I'm going to launch a 7-day-a-week podcast and shake things up. And then 3 years later are earning over multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month, and changed the industry and all this. I want to know about Little John. Yeah. So because one of the things that I'm finding with different entrepreneurs, and it's just one of my little hypotheses, is I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs, when they're young, have a vision that once they make it is very actually in adult world similar to the kids picture. And so
I'm going to be an outlier of your hypothesis, to be honest, which there always are. I am actually one of those people that, when I finally started getting excited about business and stuff, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was reading, Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. And he was talking about how when he was a kid, he'd go on the weekends and sell cars and make $1,000, and his mother would be like, "You're special. That doesn't happen." And wow, when I was a kid, we had two neighbors, a neighbor on my right, a neighbor on my left, when I was 12, 13, 14, 15. And I got a pretty sweet job mowing my neighbor to the right's lawn. And, my dad had bought the machine, which I had to do our own lawn for free. I got a weekly allowance of whatever it was, $15. And part of that was I had to mow the lawn. But then he also let me use the gasoline and the machine, not with no gasoline coming out of my pocket, to mow other lawns as well, which was huge because, it could cost $10 to mow a big lawn, and then you charge $20 for it. You're really just left with $10, and that kind of hurts. It's 50% profit cut. So that was pretty cool that he did that. And I can just remember my father being like, "Hey, I was talking to our other neighbor, and you can mow their lawn for $20 as well." And I was just like, "Nope, I'm good. $35 a week, $20 for this lawn, and $15 for, it's all I need. I go to the movies, buy my girlfriend an ice cream cone. Don't really need any more money, so I'm not going to work hard." So I was always focused growing up on doing the bare minimum and focusing on the fun, focusing on going out, going on dates, going on this, going on that. And then it wasn't until later in life that I realized, hey, there's a better way to live.
But I'm going to challenge you there, because focusing on the fun and quality of life, that's so important to you now, isn't it? What you do is, from what I know of you, is all about creating a lifestyle that works for you, that feels good, where you're not doing it somebody else's way, you're doing it your own way. So that sounds very similar to what you recognized as a kid.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was actually Skyped into a virtual conference this morning. And during this virtual conference, I was asked the question, similar to this, about, what do you think is the most important part of your what are your business values, et cetera. And one thing I said, hey, there's a lot of people in this room. I'm hope I'm not offending anybody, but, I kind of laugh every year I look at the Inc. 500. I mean, when you see a company on the Inc. 500 that's generating $11 million a year in revenue, but they have 334 employees, I'm like, not only is that company not making any money, they are losing significant money every month. How are they an Inc. 500 company? Whereas my business, I grossed 2.6 in 2015 and I netted 1.5. That's the kind of business that I've always wanted to create. And I think it doesn't go back to where my priorities were not going bigger and better, not more lawns, but just, hey, how can I build a business that I enjoy doing, but that does have a massive focus on the profit margin. So that was always really big for me. And it's kind of funny, a girl in the audience got up and said, hey, it's kind of crazy you said that, because I actually worked for the number 8 company last year in the Inc. 500. So number 8, and they just filed bankruptcy, and, we're like $6 million in debt. And this is, a top 10 Inc. 500 company, can't even sustain a year and they're out. I mean, obviously things happen in life, but those aren't the kind of businesses that I want to build. What I want to build is, the Freedom Journal, where, it cost me $7 to get this over here. I sell it for $35 and that profit is mine. Like, that's a net profit. People join Podcasters Paradise for $99 per month. It doesn't add to my cost or bandwidth. That money's going into my pocket. So there's a great book I love recommending called Profit First by Michael Michalowicz that really underlies my thinking here.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I love that you also have a great work ethic. And so maybe that came partly from the military, maybe partly from your upbringing, but you hustle hard. Like, you're very focused, you're very driven for long-term results. You're not looking at getting the quickest result. You're looking at the long-term outcome. And that's what you teach. And I love that. It's so refreshing.
Glad you like it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So what do you think what do you think, since you got into podcasting and since you started EO Fire, what has been the biggest influence on you and the direction that you've taken your business?
It really does go back to quality of life. Like, every major decision I make, I say, is this a hell yes for my life? Like, the life that I've created here in San Diego, where I go for a 10,000 step walk every day in the beautiful 75-degree weather, hang out with Kate every night on this couch here, doing dinner and watching, Blacklist, waking up in the morning nice and early and getting a good start in the day, and doing interviews like this from the comfort of my own home. Like, by the way, this is interview 7 of 10 today. Like, most people will travel, to go speak at a conference for 45 minutes. And yeah, like, that's a good experience. And I do that, very distinctly and very pick and choose way. But like, this is the big ROI where I see is a huge return on investment, where I can sit down and say, hey, Nicole and Jan and XYZ, like, they want to interview me. I can schedule this back to back, knock them out, bring the heat for the day. And then tomorrow my schedule says nothing and it's blocked off as nothing. And that's where I'm coming up with the ideas like Freedom Journal and pushing the ball forward for that. And, kind of making sure that my business is really tight funnel wise in my emails and my Snapchats. So really important stuff.
Snapchat. So, I was going to ask you a different question, but favorite social media platform?
Not even a close second place. Like, distant second will be Instagram. So much so I'm neglecting it now. Snapchat is a huge number one. Like, the reality is, about 6 months ago, they implemented what's called stories, and that changed everything. It went from just being for teenage girls to being an absolute must if you're an authority figure. And now every single day, I'm growing a massive audience on Snapchat, delivering huge value. I do JLD rants every single day. People try to ask me, John, like, can you mentor me one-on-one? And I say, just follow me on Snapchat. Every day I'm mentoring people through Snapchat, one-to-many. And that's the only way I can do things now with the business that I've grown. It is the best social media platform for authority figures without a close second.
Beautiful. Favorite self-care strategy? You mentioned walking, but you do a number of things to take care of yourself.
Sleep is number one. If you're not getting 8 hours of sleep a night, like, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Like the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world that try to get by on 4 or 5 hours. I mean, he's headed for hurting the reality. And I like Gary. I mean, he's a friend. I just had him on the show. I love his energy, love his vibe, but you can't buy that hype. Sleep is everything. Your body needs it. Sean Stevenson's my mentor. He's got a great podcast called The Model Health Show. He wrote a book called 21 Ways to Sleep Smarter. And it is just gold. If you start your day with 8 hours of sleep, you're starting your day successful.
Awesome. And it's interesting you say mentor. My next question was going to be lifelong mentor. Who's made the biggest impact on you personally?
Lifelong mentor would probably be Benjamin Franklin. I read his autobiography like when I was 16 years old, and it always stuck with me. Like, he left home when he was 17, penniless, arrived in Philadelphia with a loaf of bread, literally. But he had skills. He had value to give to the world. And that's why I always say, like, you could take everything away from me and, like, I can wake up tomorrow with nothing. And it'll be scary and it'll be tough, but I'll get back because of the skills that I've acquired. So they can never take away the skills that you're growing as an entrepreneur by doing that thing every day. Like he apprenticing every single day as a printer, they could never take those skills away from him. He went over to London and did it. He went back to Philadelphia, up to Boston. So what is the skill that you're acquiring? For me, it's interviewing. Like I have that skill that nobody can take away from me now because I've done 1,300. My first couple hundred sucked. I was bad. Like I was robotic. I was inexperienced. You're nodding your head. I like you less now. I'm just kidding.
No.
Really, really true. But I'm a big believer in if you want to be, do. And I wanted to be a podcaster, so I had to be bad for a while in order to be good. Tiger Woods did not hit a hole-in-one the first time he swung the club. Neither did Michael Jordan sink a free throw the first time he took a shot. Like they did that thing to become great.
I was smiling because I was actually just before this interview thinking about how far I've come in the 40 some interviews I've done, but how I still suck, but how I'm getting better and better every day. And I'm looking forward to the next 10, the next 10, the next 10, and each time reflecting back and saying, okay, so here's what I'm doing well, here's what feels good, and here's what doesn't. And so here's the changes I'm going to make. So
yeah, even in just the last few months, I mean, your entire presence on camera here has shifted, and and I'm seeing this, and I do a ton of these, but that stands out to me. So definitely.
Thank you. Well, that is all the time we've got. So JLD, where can people find you?
All the magic happens in this guy's world at eofire.com. And of course, if you want one of these gorgeous leather-bound, gold embossed Freedom Journals to give yourself the gift of accomplishing your #1 goal in 100 days, join over 10,000 people who have given themselves that gift, who have given the gift of education to those less fortunate at thefreedomjournal.com.
Thank you so, so much. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, I would love to have you support our launch by subscribing on iTunes and leaving a rating and review. When you do this, I'm going to give you a gift called the Get Seen, Get Heard Business Building Bundle, which includes my interview from the Business Building Rockstars Summit 2015 with John Lee Dumas, as well as 4 other super valuable interviews that are going to give you actionable strategies and tips for rocking webinars, starting out with your videos, getting on television, and using photography in your marketing. All you have to do to grab that bundle right now is to visit bbrshow.com/launch. That's LAUNCH, where you can input your Apple ID, your name, and your email address, and I will get you your bundle just as soon as possible. I appreciate you tuning in to today's show, and I hope that you will join me again next time for episode 14, where Julie Lowe and I discuss the importance of making the right offer and shaping your business the way you want it. Until then, have an awesome day.
And there you have it. If you enjoyed this episode of the Business Building Rockstars Show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss a thing. And visit bbrshow.com for all the show notes and links to resources discussed on today's show. Plus, lots more.